We are thankful to all of our folks, and we are going to finish strong here. I'm building it up. Give me a little bit here. This is it. You know, I think Matt Rawle could be described by a lot of people as your clergy's favorite clergy. I know when I was at Duke, I mean, he's one of the people that you just want to be around. He's fun, he's energetic, and he's deep. He is a spiritual man. He loves Jesus with all his heart. It is evident when you meet him, and has a passion for it. If you've picked up an Abingdon press book, you've likely seen his work in recent years, and he's just one of the great voices in our church today. Please welcome, from the great state of Louisiana, Matt Rawle.
Thank you, Troy. Good to be here with everyone. Oh, let me click this button to make sure. Today we're talking about avenues of gratitude, and we're going to start with a word of prayer. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Amen. So some house cleaning to begin with. I'd love for you, much like our last presentation, to get connected with our Minty Pole. It'll be on the screen. Aim your phone at the QR code and get connected with not a lot of questions today. And I'm usually asked last to present because I'm usually the shortest and least practical of all of the speakers. So we will get you out on time today, much like the last presentation. You don't have to participate on this. If your neighbor is, just follow along. It's all good. It's all fine. Oh, are we done? Sorry, I moved very quickly. Yeah, good, okay. And if the QR code isn't there on subsequent slides at the very top, it'll have the number that you can manually add. Give you a second to get connected to that. We are going to try it out, though, just so I can kind of read the room. The first question, just so we can try out the information. So how hungry are you right now? We're up against dinner. I just want to check where we are to see how we're doing, okay? Not many very hungry, though there are a couple jumping in there. Still recovering from lunch. Yeah, that was a sandwich, wasn't it? Oh, my God, my jaw was tired at the end of that. That was amazing. And then a cookie to boot. That was so good. Well done, whoever's idea that was. Was that your idea? Maybe. Maybe. That was a good sandwich. That was legit. Okay, good. So we're good. You're not super, super hungry, so have your attention at least for a little bit. Okay, so with that, let's talk. When Troy asked me to be here several months ago, I had this really cool story about how we were looking at the budget and our loose plate offering had fallen off the map, and we had never quite figured that out since the pandemic. And we were trying lots of different things. We finally realized we were handing an offering plate to a group of people who didn't have checks or cash and wondering why there was nothing in it, right? One of the stories of the United Methodist Church is that we keep making wallets and arguing over the kind of wallet we are to produce to a young adult community who doesn't carry them, right? So a lot of our arguments in the church are over wallets that no one is using, right? So we had this great idea. We put up a tap and go kiosk, an Apple Pay kiosk at our Welcome Center, and it increased our loose plate offering by 150% on average weekly. The kiosk cost about $300. It was a refurbished iPad, a square. The most expensive part of it was the stand, right? And to make it look good, right? Paid for itself in a week or two, right? So we were going to lean into some of those things. And I was telling Troy all this. He goes, oh, my God, you've got to talk. Holston's doing this thing. You got to tell this story about how we can increase giving. It's about generosity and all this stuff. I said, wonderful. And then General Conference happened. 2 Sundays after General Conference, it was Pentecost, and I was preaching on the Apostle Paul and how Paul's theology changed over the course of his letters. Early Paul, 1 Thessalonians, he goes, we will be saved. It's coming. Don't worry about ethics. Just believe in Jesus. It's coming. When we get to middle Paul, 1 Corinthians, he goes, we are being saved. He's very Wesleyan at that point. He sees the light, and he becomes Methodist. We are being saved. But then when we get to Romans, at the end of Paul's career, he says, we have been saved. By hope we have been saved. So I'm talking about how he gets to nothing can separate us from the love of God. Friends, he didn't start there. It took him a while to get there. And I literally say from the pulpit, this is not some hippy-dippy post-general conference sermon. I'm just reading the Bible. I'm just reading what Paul says. And as the words were leaving my lips, a trans woman walked into the sanctuary in the front row with her 2 kids. And the next day, 60 grand walked out. So I said, Troy, I'm no longer qualified to tell all these good people about winning, generous stewardship strategies. We are now in crisis. So I'm not here. You're not going to hear solutions, but you are going to overhear me trying to figure it out. When Jade walked into the sanctuary, I looked up to the heavens, and the first thing, and the confession begins with the pastor. I looked up to the heavens and said, I don't need my job to be any harder than it is. I said, I'm tired. I'm really tired. My congregation said, Pastor Matt, what are you going to do about this? I said, I'm going to take her to lunch, Right? If we took her to lunch, yeah, right. So, Jade works for the Air Force. Jade knows Mandarin fluently. Jade surveils China Monday through Friday. You all would be saluting her if the dress wasn't so fancy. So I started to investigate why I'm so tired. Lord, I'm tired. And it's because we've all been running 4 different COVID marathons back to back to back to back. The first one was traumatic innovation. Everything shut down. What are we going to do? When we are an incarnational entity and we can't be incarnation with each other, what is church? It is the beginning of the book of Acts, and Jesus ascends. He's not with us in the flesh anymore. How will we even function? So we had to get smart very quickly. Traumatic innovation. And we came up with some, and I know that you did too. We had drive-in church. That was one of the things. We got a little radio transponder, and I preached in an empty sanctuary, which was weird and dystopian and crazy. And the folks would drive up, and they would listen to the service over the radio. And unintended consequence, the retirement facility next door was in the radius of the radio, and we overnight inherited a new community of faith. Right? Yeah? Innovation. Oh, but in the midst of trauma, what does this even look like? That's exhausting. But that was only the first marathon. Next came the second marathon, which I call existential exhaustion. We were all in a cultural place where we began to ask very big questions. Do I want to be in the same church? Do I want to be in the same job? Do I want to be in the same relationship? Everyone, on the whole, generally speaking, was turning a page. We were asking very big questions. It is no coincidence that not long after this existential exhaustion, we have a United Methodist Church and a Global Methodist Church. Right? And doing very simple things became very, very tiring. But that was only the second marathon that we had to run together, right? The third, here we go. We heard a little bit about this today. Nostalgic scarcity. Oh, we started coming back in person, and worship started to feel relatively normal again. And then how many of you got the question, Pastor, when are we going to get back to... When are we going to get back to the pumpkin patch? When are we going to get back to the mission trip? When are we going to get back to the ice cream social? When are we going? Because we are in crisis and we want to invest what little we have in making it feel like it's 2019 again. And up until the fourth marathon, this was the hardest thing for churches, is the nostalgic scarcity. Our gifts aren't the same as they were, and we want to invest in making it feel like it's 2019 when the world was a little more predictable. But there's still one more marathon to go, and we're in the middle of it right now, and it's recovery reality, right? I got hit with it hard on Pentecost, because sometimes the Holy Spirit shows up like a dude wearing a dress. What do you have in store for us today, Lord? When milk is $7.50 a gallon, your young families are drowning. And I'm not blaming anyone. This is part of, if anyone is in economics, you know that there's always equilibrium. It's always searching for equilibrium. I'm not blaming anyone or any administration or anything. It just is, right? We've canoed the mountains, and now we need to sell the canoe to buy supplies for the journey, right? Recovery reality. What we discerned through all these things, and this is important for what happens next, is there were some things we needed to lean into that were for now, and some things we needed to lean into that were forever. So, for example, a for now expense was our radio transponder. When no one was in the sanctuary, we inherited this whole other community of faith. We didn't do that forever, but we did buy, for example, a new camera for the sanctuary. We beefed up our online experience. Our worship is 60% in person, 40% online, which is also strange. When we were hearing earlier that part of going to an annual conference and recognizing that your friends aren't there, there's something missing. Well, the person that used to sit next to you in the pew, they're still there, they're just at home. But you still feel loss. So part of this is convincing your people, like, no, they're here. They're here, I promise. You can't see them. Again, remember, the church had to figure out when Jesus ascended into the clouds, they had to figure out what's next. And they were left there with their mouths open in the sky. And what did the angels say? Like, close your mouth, turn around, and get moving, right? Get moving. Some things were for now, some things were forever. So I have a question for you. In your experience, through these 4 different marathons of COVID, did you forget to put your phone, did you put your phone away? I'm interested in what you might have to say of what was a for now investment when you were going through COVID. Was it, okay, I'll give you one, here's a softball, masks, right? Maybe some of you still have them at the doors, and I think that's awesome, and I think that's very helpful. But for example, masks were a for now investment. Okay? Yeah, masks and sanitizer. Yeah. What else? Let's talk communion. Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh my, and this is the story of how short church folks' memories are sometimes. When I got to Asbury, they did communion once a month, you know? I brought communion, and I counsel young clergy, like, don't change anything before Jesus is born, and then don't change anything again until Jesus is raised, right? First Sunday, we did weekly communion, and they were pissed off. They hated it. Like, we're going to have to get more volunteers. That's so expensive. And look, I'm talking about offering Christ to everyone there. Like, there's so much juice, you know, it's so much. And not only that, like, how deaf am I to this? I did it by intinction when they were used to the little shot glasses of Jesus. Like, I just bring a cup there, and they're like, oh my, the plague, I'm going to get them, just, right? And we start doing it every week. As soon as COVID hit, it's the first, Pastor, we want communion again. I was like, do you? Yeah. Communion, individual communion kits. Social distancing. Yeah, how many of you, what do you do with your social distancing signs now? Yeah, cleaning spray, individual communion kits. Pre-packaged communion, yep, good. Pre-recordings of worship services, God bless you. Do you remember those? Woo, yeah. Again, it was very like Pink Floyd's The Wall. I'm preaching, and like we had 25% of the sanctuary, and everyone was in masks, but here I am like preaching to them. You know, we don't need no edge. It's dystopian. What's happening right now? My God. Good, thank you. So we are realizing that there were some things that we invested in that were for now. We don't do them anymore, but we hit the ground running and we started these things. Yeah? Okay, next question. What was a forever investment during that time? Or did you have one? What became a forever investment? For us, it was our worship equipment, because we realized that, hey, online worship is not going away. We need to go ahead and invest in this, right? Good. Oh, yes, here we go. Good. Live stream, yes. Tech upgrade, cameras, good. You're going to hear a lot more about tech in the church tomorrow, and the Mentimeter will be much more interactive tomorrow. Extra cameras, streams, Zooms, better lighting, good. Staging outside for driving, yes, good. This is excellent. I haven't heard anyone say we invested in a new way of giving. There's online giving, yeah, good. Oh, we're going to push that just a little bit. This is good. Is there, I wonder if I'm missing some here. Yes, okay, good. Ooh, sorry. Learn the tech guy. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, bye-bye passing of plates. I'm so glad you said that. We're going to say a word about that in just a minute. Increasing online giving. A zoo. Okay. Okay, who are you brave enough? You invested in a zoo. I'd love to hear who said that. Are you brave enough to say more about it? Oh, it's a typo. I am so super disappointed in that. I'm like, please, God, tell me you started a petting zoo. This is so amazing. It's a freaking typo. I've rarely been more disappointed. There you go. Oh, my God. That's so good. Yeah, Zoom Bible study. Yeah. We've I'm doing that right now. Card machine, good. Fantastic, thank you. I'm going to remember that forever. Okay. When Jade walked into the sanctuary, I looked up to the heavens and said, I don't need my job to be any harder than it is. Lord, I'm tired. Why am I tired? I need to figure that out. We were running 4 back-to-back-to-back COVID marathons. Is there a 5th? Friends, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. I'm not the expert here. I might have been the expert like 6 months ago, but then all hell broke loose. I don't know. The next step is, why isn't this working? Because when you're in panic mode, when you're anxious, what works? I need an easy win. But nothing's working. Why? There's 3 cultural shifts that is happening all at the same time in all of our churches. First, we have the industrial age. Industrial age thinking, right? Industrial age thinking, you have to be in the same place at the same time for it to work, whatever it is, right? Think of your offering plate. In the industrial age, if you're not in worship, you're not giving. It is money in a plate with an usher that goes to a safe, which then goes to the bank, which then is a report that you get on Tuesday afternoon. It is tangible, it is trusted, it is also slow, and it doesn't work if you're not there. Are we good? Industrial age. Brick and mortar, right? Offering plate. Commentaries. Preachers, when you're preparing for a sermon, you would get a book off of a shelf, right? Who has the New Interpreter's edition of Jude or whatever, right? You have to call around and see who has the Bible dictionary. And also pew pads for registration, right? How many of you have pew pads where you pass the pad around? Yeah, good. One of my goals in life is to eliminate that entire step, because I'm like, and we used to joke about it, here's a pew pad, don't forget to sign your name illegibly so that we have no idea who you are come Tuesday, right? Thank you so much. Or someone will say, the Smith family, and I just want to punch them in the face. Good, I'm glad the Smith family was here. Seriously? But no one never called me this week. The pastor didn't call, I had a Christmas, oh my God, I've gotten so many weird gifts. I had a gift one year for Christmas. It was a broken guitar that had written on it, "Oh, come all ye faithful." It's just is this an art piece? What is happening right now? And a lady came to me 5 weeks later. She goes, "You didn't write me a thank you note for my gift." I was like, "Oh, it was you," right? There was no name attached to it. There's no nothing. I've gotten some weird gifts. When I was a confirmation leader, I preached on this Sunday. His name was Chad. And this is when I was a youth director. And it was common for us to have a banquet and then the confirmands would give the confirmation leader a gift. And Chad came, and he had this red, beat-up igloo cooler. He sat down, and he opened it up, and inside the cooler, on ice, was a quarter-used jar of Newman's Own spaghetti sauce and a pack of dried shrimp. That's exactly I was just very, very confused. And I thought, oh, how adorable. They made homemade spaghetti sauce. Like, what a thoughtful gift. Until his mother said, do you know Paul Newman makes this? Like, oh. Left some sandwiches back at the house, did we? For the picnic. Cool. I say that. I wish I could show it. I mentioned this sermon. I mentioned this on Sunday, this red cooler. I got a long extended email of someone's like theologically interpreting this because I made a joke about like, I don't know what the purpose of this was, and she goes, no, but listen to the Holy Spirit. And it was just fascinating, very deep, People are weird. So, industrial age, right? Sometimes you get a red cooler, you don't know what to do with it, right? But that has been giving way to the information age, right? And we were kind of thrust into this during COVID. The information age, it's not the same time, same place anymore. It's different time, different place. And what does that mean for worship? That someone can stream your worship service on a Sunday afternoon long after it's no longer live, right? Do you count them? How does this work, right? How long does the DS want me to keep the window open? Can I report my Wednesday numbers from Sunday? Like, how does this work, right? And we had a long talk in Louisiana about how to officially count these things, and no one has the right answer, by the way. Different place, different time is information age, right? Things are digital and they're online. Let's think about your giving once again. In the information age, you might have a giving portal, right? Or a QR code or text to give or something like that. Auto draft, things like that. Where now they don't have to be in the same place at the same time for you to receive revenue. Think about study, friends. Pastors, do you look up Atla or This Week in Worship or Text Week or whatever online database? You're not looking for the book on the shelf anymore. What website do I need to go to find bulletin art or whatever, right? QR codes, information aids, different place, different time. But now, kind of like the COVID marathons, like as soon as we think we've got this figured out, it switches on us. So now we're leaning into the automated age or the augmented age. This is so curious. It's not same time, same place. It's not different time, different place. It's different place, same time. What that means is anywhere in the world I can access the metaverse, but it still has to be a live event. I can't leave someone a message in the metaverse. I could be anywhere in the world, so a different place, but if I want to connect with someone, it's the same time. Okay? Next is the trajectory is changing with the internet. We used to, in the information age, we used to go to the internet for information and communion and commerce. Now the internet is coming to us, whether we like it or not. The trajectory is changing. My Apple Watch is recording my heart rate right now and recording it on my phone. I'm not asking it to do that. There's an automation that is happening. The internet is coming to us. I don't go to Netflix to see what I want to watch. Netflix is telling me, hey, we think you'll like Amazon. It's no accident. I love people like, open my Amazon, and it's all things about horseshoes and weird stuff. I'm like, it's your algorithm, bro. Like, you might want to check. Before you start telling people, man, Twitter's a shit show, you might want to check your friend list because it's an algorithm. It's only amplifying you. So just be very careful. This is a bigger conversation. We might be talking about it tomorrow. I can't remember. The ethics of technology, right? On the one hand, technology doesn't have an ethic. We bring that ethic to it, right? Technology is an amplifier of who we already are. When folks say, like, social media is terrible, no, the people doing stupid things is what's terrible. It's just being amplified in the social media realm, right? Things that should have been said in secret, or they shouldn't have been said at all, but they used to be said in the hallways, is now in front of everyone, for everyone to see. We don't have a talk, I mean, that's a whole nother talk about the kind of language we have, but social media has turned upside down the way we treat language. Language matters, right? We were talking about Ohio. Where is it? Springfield. words matter. Words matter because real people are being abused, right? Okay. There's a trajectory change in the internet. So let's think about the automated age in terms of giving again. Let's bring the slide back up. We're not long from someone saying, and I'm talking to the foundation now. I want to give interest from my Bitcoin to the capital campaign. And our churches are ill-equipped to receive that today. I've been talking to several foundations about creating a digital wallet as part of your portfolio. It might not be today, but unless you have 21 chairs in the choir loft, you'll never have 21 members, right? There's a digital component that's happening in the automated age. ChatGPT, we've been talking about that. We're going to talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. In terms of pew pads, it's not pew pads, it's not check-in, it's geofence. Shelby will do this. Do any of you use Shelby as a membership database? One lone person in the back. Okay, cool. Well, Shelby has a thing where you can have a little fob that you give to your members, and when they come on campus, they're automatically checked in. The goal of the automated age is for you to not take your phone out. That's how automated it is, right? Think about it this way. Industrial age, it's a landline. Information age, it's a cell phone. Automated age, it's already happening. You don't have to take your phone out at all. Now, footnote, we started to do that at Asbury, but there's some privacy issues with that, right? And in fact, there was a domestic violence where there was a woman and her kid and said, I don't want my ex-husband to know that I'm on campus. So please don't do this where I'm automatically checked in. Don't do that. Great, right? Cool. Good so far? Are we good? Are we okay so far? Yeah, good? Okay. Move in. Why does this matter? Technology is changing our liturgy. We are not called to be tech experts, but we are called to recognize how technology is changing what we do. Think of a funeral. Before all of this, the hardest part of a funeral was finding a piano player at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning. Anyone else have that problem? Yeah? Funerals used to be, at least for me, this is my context, it used to be Saturday mornings at 10 o'clock, family would come in, they would go to the house, they would have dinner, they would converse, they would meet with me, and we're scrambling to find a live musician, and then they would have the funeral, and then they would go home. The funeral was the climax of their gathering as a family. I've now not done more Thursday afternoon funerals than I ever thought I would do in an entire career of ministry. Because now the funeral is the beginning of the family's gathering. They rarely talk to me, or they Zoom with me prior to everyone getting in town. The funeral's in the afternoon, and then they spend time with each other, packing up, sharing memories, having dinner. It's not finding the piano player, it's someone to work the camera now, or the live stream, right? You don't have to be a tech expert, but recognize that now I have to supply the tech booth. I thought 2 years ago I would never live stream a funeral. It felt rude, voyeuristic. In the last 2 years, there's only been 2 funerals that I've done that they asked not to be live streamed. Because family doesn't have to come in. They can check it out on home, and they can share it with their friends, right? Technology is changing our liturgy, the work that we do, the worshipful work that we do. Why does this matter? Here's a question that should be on the screen. It's on my screen, that's why I said it. Can we put that? Yes, good, okay. When we think about AI, if technology is changing our liturgy, and AI is becoming an increasing contributor and partner in what we do, to me, AI is fill in the blank. And that could be ChatGPT, that could be Copilot, that could be Firefly, that could be, I don't know what you're talking about, Matt Rawle. AI is, to me, let's see what, yeah, this is good. Yeah. Friends, the beautiful thing about Mentimeter, if you've never used it, I encourage you to use it. There's a free version. You also, all of this data, I can put on a spreadsheet with a click of a button and have all of this recorded. And the reason I say that is because it looks like the number one word is scary. which is the number one word across the board every time I've done this, which is so very interesting, right? I hope to re-narrate that just a little bit. ChatGPT is not good. Don't ask it to write your sermon because it's going to, well, frankly, it's going to be terrible at it. Secondly, it's inauthentic. But ChatGPT is really good at synthesizing information very, very quickly. So, for example, I'll give you a real-time example here in front of you. Back before 60 Grand walked out of Sanctuary, we were talking about a second campus of where we should build one. So we inputted into ChatGPT our mission insight metrics, our mission and vision, what we were good at, where we were located, and we asked it, where is a second campus? Where should a second campus be? And it literally, in about 12 seconds, gave us 3 intersections where it would be successful. So instead of sifting through census data for 3 months, we were in ministry with people for those 3 months, talking in downtown Bossier, near the mall, and then in North, we call it Nobo, because we feel very proud of ourselves, North Bossier, right? It gave us time to be in ministry with people, right? So let computers do what they're really good at. I do find this interesting that both scary and helpful are almost the same size. I love that. Let's unpack that for a little bit. This is great. I'm gonna do, okay. Let me throw some stewardship in it, and then we're gonna talk. The foundation's here, right? Is the foundation still here? Yes. Okay. We'll talk about stewardship for just a minute. In terms of and then we'll get back to AI. In terms of augmented realities, I don't think this is new. This is kind of the standard. Like, how does a church receive revenue? Here are the 6 streams, right? There's the offering, however you define that, in a plate or whatever. Capital, right? That's the other pocket that some folks have with investments. There's your space. We talked a little bit about that, of your space, your building, your location, taking advantage of that. The community. We have a pumpkin patch at our church. It's a community event. They come to the, by the way, I love this. This is, it's not the pumpkins we've discovered. It's the pumpkin bread. So one really interesting thing that we've done, we ordered the pumpkins, but we have a lot of the folks at church bake the bread, which is actually free because they donate it, and the bread actually makes more money than the pumpkins. The pumpkins are what gets them to the patch, but it's not what makes them the money. It makes us the money. Chick-fil-A does the same thing. Did you know this? If you don't buy a drink at Chick-fil-A, they will go under. The sandwich gets you there. The large Coke keeps them in business. Yeah? What does that look like in your congregation? Now, I'm not saying that you like bait and switch people to come in, like come for the sermon, leave with communion. Like that's not like, but let's think about these things. All right, so community social entrepreneurship, that's like if you have a coffee shop or there's a church in Natchitoches that owns the donut shop across the street. And I'm really tempted to like bring them up on monopoly antitrust charges. Like the church owns the donut shop. That seems a bit, it's fine. Apparently you don't need donuts in Tennessee. Okay, cool. And then institutional grants, like with the foundation. One thing we need to consider as we move forward, and we're almost done, friends, is when we lean into the augmented age, what do these things now look like? And this is me trying to figure out, I just lost 60 grand. I need to think through this. I need to help figure this out. Instead of the offering plate, Venmo, PayPal, Touch to Go, what does that look like? Maybe we need to start that. Smart giving. I read an article. There's a really great email called Morning Brew. If you don't, it's really, really great. They were talking about some institutions are now leaning into smart giving. So you have an account, and that account varies. Let's say it's an investment. And depending on how much that, and then you tell the algorithm, no matter the total of what this account, I want to give 10% to fill in the blank. So now it's automated. No matter how your account expands or contracts, you're still giving 10% of whatever that amount is. What would it look like in terms of estate planning, talking to folks about smart giving, where it's a sliding scale and it's automated? Digital currency, we've already talked about that. I think it'd be a great idea for foundations to house your digital wallet so that one day, it's not today, you need to build the 21st chair of the choir if you want 21 members, right? If you only have 18 members, you'll never have 20, of what that looks like when one day we can receive this. The metaverse. There's a curious thing happening with our spaces, our worship space. Spaces are becoming bigger, I would argue almost infinite, but physically they're getting smaller, right? How big is the metaverse? I have no idea, but it's now the size of glasses, physically. What does that mean in the church when the model used to be bigger sanctuary, more people, and now our spaces are getting physically smaller in the real world, but infinitely larger in the cyber world, right? Something to think about. And then finally, gamifying. I get really excited about this. So we developed a 7-minute playable video game for confirmation. It's called Circuit Rider, and it looks like Oregon Trail. Have you ever played Oregon Trail? Do you know Oregon Trail? It looks like Oregon Trail, but instead of going to Oregon, you are a circuit rider in 1764 Virginia, and you're planting churches, right? Same kind of graphics. We even have an album. It's not on Spotify, but we have an album of 8-bit hymns. It's fantastic. It's so fun. But here's the thing in terms of stewardship and giving. And by the way, does anyone know who the first circuit rider was? If you played Circuit Rider, you would know, because you are deployed with Pastor Strawbridge in 1764 Virginia, which also gives our game an opportunity to lean into the racial divide of the early United Methodist Church. You don't get that in seminary when you're studying John Wesley in England. Very different dynamic, yeah? Anyway, the points you score in the game is a certain number of flood buckets from UMCOR. So when the kids play this game, the points that they derive are real-world flood relief items. Now, the church pays for that. There's no, but there's a whole untapped market. I have 4 kids, and they're on their phones more than they're in books. So maybe we can use that to our advantage to communicate our value, communicate who we are through the screen that they have in their hands. Let's make video games out of it. That might be fun. I only need about 80 grand left to complete the game. So, dear foundation. No? Okay, cool. Yeah, that's what every foundation is saying right now. That's fine. Here's a real-world application of ChatGPT. Let's get back to this. So, and this is very simple. Like, I'm not saying ChatGPT, write my prayer for me, but I am saying, hey, I uploaded our Asbury United Methodist Church budget, the PDF of the budget, into ChatGPT. And I said, hey, how can we have maximum benefit of our budget, but also create maximum benefit in our community? What are 3 needs in Bossier City that we can tackle and find the sweet spot between our budget, but also maximum benefit of what we can give? In about 7 seconds, it said, oh, poverty and economic stability. Out of your budget, you should give $67,600, and it told us where to give it. Number 2, education and youth services, $59,150, and this is why and this is where. Affordable housing, $42,250. This is tangible, and this gets people excited to give. I don't know how long it would have taken me to figure that out on my own or even with my team. I uploaded a PDF and said, help me figure this out, and in about 7 seconds, it gave me the answer. Now I can be in ministry. I've saved myself a lot of time to be in ministry. I give that to my team and say, hey, how about we do a grant of $67,000 to economic stability in Bossier City? But I forget who said it, but you also have to be in a city that is willing to hear its own deficits. When I first moved to Bossier, I did lunch with the sheriff, and I did lunch with the mayor, and to both of them, it was the best city ever. No problems. So we have a church eager to serve. It's like, well, we don't have any homeless, Okay, yeah, all of our children are literate. Yeah, sure, okay. So I encourage you, I would love for you to do this, maybe not tonight. I don't know what you're doing later, but this is a very simple way to say, okay, and this is free. ChatGPT is free. You upload a PDF and say, help me make this effective. Help me streamline this, right? What are the needs of my zip code? And with this budget, how can we have maximum benefit to our neighbors? And friends, in less than 10 seconds, you'll have something to present to your finance team. Or that donor that says, hey, I have 100 grand, I don't know what to do with it. Give me 7 seconds, right? Maximum benefit to what you're doing. Tomorrow, you're going to hear more about this, the Hub for Innovation, where we kind of figure some of these things out. The Hub is where curiosity, leadership, and entrepreneurship together cultivate an environment. Oh, sorry, that's my cursor. I was like, why is that French? An environment for I'm from Louisiana. I noticed these things. An environment for innovation. You'll hear more about that tomorrow. Any questions? You can either put them on the screen. The introverts can put them on the screen. Extroverts can ask for Troy. Yeah.
Some folks said that, scary topped up as the top word for using ChatGPT. Yeah. Talk for a minute about, and you hit on it just a second ago, entry points for folks to start using ChatGPT. Like, don't write your sermon with it, but I know for me, trying to put about the pumpkin patch, write a blurb for the pumpkin patch in the newsletter. Oh my gosh, it's saved a ton of time. Or help write this email, edit this document. Talk about just some entry points that you think just, if you've never used that before, this could be helpful for you in your ministry.
Step number one, to make it feel very helpful. What I did is I took several of my old sermons and uploaded them and said, learn my writing style. And it did, because there's some common words that I use. That's a really great way to say, like, oh, okay, these are actually my words that are being regurgitated back to me, right? The second is, like a stewardship letter or a blurb for your newsletter, describe your pumpkin patch. What's really great about it, like, hey, we have this pumpkin patch at Asbury United Methodist Church. We unloaded 8,000 pumpkins. It's really great for the community. Write me a paragraph for my church newsletter that will get people excited about the pumpkin patch. And in about 5 seconds, it'll give you a paragraph. Most of the time, that will need editing, obviously. Yes. But it does learn over time. So crafting a paragraph. One thing it's really good at is synthesizing information. So last Easter, I was looking through the lectionary of the 4 Sundays after Easter, and I was looking for a common theme, and I wasn't finding one. So I typed in just the texts, John, Luke, whatever, and I said, hey, what do you see a common theme through this? And in 5 seconds, it said, abide, to abide in one another. And it's a conversation partner to help me figure out what I need to put together. So it's really good at synthesizing information, finding commonality. What it's doing, ChatGPT is generative pretext transformer. And what it's doing, it's stringing words that are statistically supposed to go together. That's all it's doing. So when you ask it a question, it's like when you're planning a worship series and you have the youth group there, you have your visuals team, you have the musicians, and you have some investors maybe, you have an envisioning retreat, and you say, hey, I want to do a sermon series, I'm picking one sermon series. Let's say I want to do a stewardship campaign focused on generosity. All of those teams are going to do their own thing. The youth are going to think about it. The musicians are going to think about it in terms of worship. When you ask ChatGPT, it does that exact same thing over the internet in all of these different categories, and what it does, it spits to you the most common theme through all of those categories and what they are. Sometimes it nails it. Sometimes it's not so good. And you have to use discernment, like with everything. Like with a commentary. Like there's some trusted commentaries that you use, some commentaries that you don't use. So don't use those, right? Don't use these things. Is that an answer to your question? Yeah? Good.
What other questions? Some questions for Matt?
Where can I download your game? Here's a question that came up. Yeah, it is a demo. If you give me your email address, I'll give you access to it. Yeah, so write this down. Here's my email address. I'll just give you my email address. It's my name at gmail.com, matthew.rawle@gmail.com. And I'll give you, it's about 7 minutes, and it's tons of fun. So, other question? Oh, I guess I could cycle through these. Anyone else? Yes.
Yes, I do.
Hey there.
Hey.
Hi. How do you communicate to more historic congregations who happen to be filled with older generations the importance of leaning into this digital edge?
Print the bulletin and then have the conversation. So in real time, and I'm not, so at Asbury, in our congregation, I'm doing all this tech stuff all the time. And this one Sunday school class, the STARS class, that has 8 older women in the class, really got frustrated. And they said, can you just print the bulletins again? Yes. So we print a small number of bulletins to them. And now, and we also, the other thing is, because a lot of our information was, we do Remind, so our bulletin is on text. We do text things and all that. There's another Sunday school class that said, can we just have a bulletin board? So we have a bulletin board. It's a both and, right? Once you have the bulletin board so that there's less suspicion of, I'm just being, in my context, they're less suspicious of what I'm doing in terms of all this tech stuff, right? I'm now looking at my kids and seeing the tech that they're doing. I don't want to learn another app. I mean, I think one of the faults of this, 2 faults. One, the elementary school where my son goes to school, you can't pick him up from school unless you have an app on your smartphone. It's called Pick My Kid. And now I'm sounding like, what happened to the thing in the windshield? I could just hang the thing and say, Robert Rawle, and why can't you know? So I'm like, oh my God, I'm telling my dad, you know. Also, there's an environmental cost with these things, which is why the church needs a seat at the table. So in 2023, in Google's environmental stewardship paperwork, 82% of the water that they use to cool these supercomputers is from areas where water is not scarce. Oh, but what's the other side of that? 18% is from where water is. Meta increased their water usage by 50% in 2023. Every 20 or so prompts from ChatGPT cost about an 8-ounce bottle of water. So we could think ChatGPT is the worst, but the world still needs our ethic at that table, right? So there is a conversation to be had. So to answer your question, how do you talk to folks who find this really suspicious? It's a both and world. Is a lot of it is nostalgic scarcity and fear of change, not about the technology. So I have found that when I do print the bulletin and make the I make the bulletin board, my associate makes a bulletin board, because you can abbreviate associate any way you want. My associate, that's a joke. It's fine. My associate does the bulletin board, but because she does the bulletin board, they're much more privy to talk about some of these things. Other questions? I have a wonderful associate. Her name is Maddie, and she's fantastic. Let me just say that out loud.
Out loud.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
The Lord be with you.
Also with you.
Let us pray. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Amen. Thank you very much.